ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकीम्। ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 26, Fundamental Principles of Material Nature. So, we come to text 9. So, there is a brief answer by Kapila Muni to his mother Devahuti's questions, and now Devahuti is further asking questions. Text 9. Devahutir Uvacha Prakrite Purushasyapi Lakshanam Purushottama Bruhi Karanayoryasya Sadasya Yadatmakam. Translation.
Devahuti said, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, kindly explain the characteristics of the Supreme Person and his energies, for both of these are the causes of this manifest and unmanifest creation. Purport. Prakriti, or material nature, is connected with both the Supreme Lord and the living entities. Just as a woman is connected with her husband as a wife and with her children as a mother. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that He impregnates Mother Nature with children, living entities, and therefore all species of living entities become manifest. The relationship of all living entities with material nature has been explained. Now, an understanding of the relationship between material nature and the Supreme Lord is sought by Devotee. The product of that relationship is stated to be the manifest and unmanifest material world. The unmanifest material world is the subtle Mahat Tattva, and from that Mahat Tattva, the material manifestation has emerged. In the Vedic literatures, it is said that by the glance of the Supreme Lord, the total material energy is impregnated, and then everything is born of material nature. It is also confirmed in the ninth chapter of Bhagavad Gita that under his glance, Atyakshayin, under his direction, and by his will, nature is working. It is not that nature works blindly. After understanding the position of the conditioned souls in relationship to material nature, Devahuti wanted to know how nature works under the direction of the Lord and what the relationship is between the material nature and the Lord. In other words, she wanted to learn the characteristics of the Supreme Lord in relationship to the material nature. The relationship of the living entities with matter and that of the Supreme Lord with matter are certainly not on the same level. Although the Mayavadis may interpret it in that way. When it is said that the living entities are bewildered, the Mayavadi philosophers ascribe this bewilderment to the Supreme Lord. But that is not applicable. The Lord is never bewildered. That is the difference between personalists and impersonalists. Devavati is not unintelligent. She has enough intelligence to understand that the living entities are not on the same level as the Supreme Lord. Because of the living entities are infinitesimal, they become bewildered or conditioned by material nature. But this does not mean that the Supreme Lord is also conditioned or bewildered. The difference between the conditioned soul and the Lord is that the Lord is the Lord, the master of material nature, and he is therefore not subject to its control. He is controlled neither by spiritual nature nor by material nature. He is the supreme controller himself, and he cannot be compared to the ordinary living entities who are controlled by the laws of material nature. Two words used in this verse are Sat and Asat. The cosmic manifestation is Asat. It does not exist. But the material energy of the Supreme Lord is Sat, forever existing. Material nature is ever existing in its subtle form as the energy of the Lord. But it sometimes manifests its non-existent or temporarily existent nature, the cosmos. An analogy may be made with the father and mother. The mother and father exist, but sometimes the mother begets children. Similarly, the cosmic manifestation, which comes from the unmanifest material nature of the Supreme Lord, sometimes appears and again disappears. But the material nature is ever existing. And the Lord is the supreme cause for both the subtle and gross manifestations of this material world.
Devotee, she began to ask that, my dear son, kindly explain to me the characteristic of the Supreme Person and his energies. So now she is now trying to understand. Prakritesh Purushasyapi Lakshanam Purushottama. O Purushottam, O Supreme Lord, please explain relationship between Prakriti and Purusha. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, Prakriti is connected with both the Supreme Lord and living entity. And Prabhupada gives a high-class example here. Just like a lady in the house, she is connected with husband and also connected with children, but in different capacity. Similarly, Prakriti, material nature, is connected with the Supreme Lord and connected with living entity in different capacities. Right. So we have already seen the relationship between Prakriti and the living entity and how the living entity is entrapped. Right. Now Devotee wants to understand the relationship of Prakriti with original Purusha. Till now we have seen the relationship of Prakriti with imitating Purusha, the living entities who want to enjoy, and how the Prakriti traps the living entities. Now here, Devotee's questions are specifically relationship between Prakriti and Purusha, who is Purushottama. So further, Srila Prabhupada explains that the Supreme Lord, he agitates the material nature. The unmanifest material nature is called as Mahattattva. And the Lord agitates the material nature by only a glance. Sa aikshataha. Sa aikshataha means the material nature. Later we will see, when Virat Rupa, when Kapila Muni is going to explain all this Virat Rupa, and there is a generation of Virat Rupa, and still Virat Rupa is sleeping. But that aikshataha, the Virat Rupa comes sizzling to the life. He's that, that is the glance of the Supreme Lord. And this glance of the Supreme Lord is called also as Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is also called as a glance of the Supreme Lord who agitates the material nature. And that's how Shiva and Durga, they are consorts. Right. And not only about sizzling the material nature and activating the material nature, the conduction of the activities of the material nature also happens under the supervision of the Supreme Lord. Mayadhyakshena Prakriti. Suyate Sacharacharam. Chara and Achara. Everything happens, animate and inanimate, happens by Adhyakshena of the Supreme Lord. So this is how exactly she wanted to learn the characteristics of the Supreme Lord and material nature. When it comes to Mayavadi, the grand mistake of Mayavadi do, they say that there is Prakriti, but there are no two Jiva. It's all just one. They think that the relationship of Prakriti with Jiva and relationship of Prakriti with the Supreme Lord, they are just the same, because Jiva is the Supreme Lord. And this is where the Mayavadis make the mistake. What is the mistake? They think Lord's pastimes as Maya. They are not able to understand that when the material nature acts on the living entity being Anu, infinitesimal, is completely in the tight grip of the material nature. Right. Living entity is completely bewildered. But the Supreme Lord, the Prakriti is under the grip of the Supreme Lord. Mayam chitat samashrayam. When Vedavyas saw the darshan of Lord, he saw Supreme Lord and Maya standing under full control of the Supreme Lord. So here the living entity, Jiva, is controlled by Prakriti and Prakriti is controlled by Supreme Lord. But Mayavadis, they miss this point and they equate the Supreme Lord with Jiva. And that's why in the previous purport, Srila Prabhupada says, one should never degrade the Lord's pastime to the sufferings of the living entity, saying that both are Leela. No, they are not Leela. Further, Srila Prabhupada's comments about there are two words, Sat and Asat. So, what is Sat and what is Asat? So, Sat here is the energy. Asat here is Asat is not specifically false. Asat here is temporary. Sat is eternal. Asat is temporary. And what is Asat? Asat is the material manifestation of the energy. Right? Just like there is a clay is there. Clay is Sat. Clay always there. Manifestation of the clay, like pot or some different pots, or sometimes the Kumar may make some diya or something like that. That is Asat. Asat doesn't mean false. Asat means temporary. So Prabhupada says, just like the father and mother will exist and eventually the child will appear. Right? Or similarly, the material nature, energy is always there, but the manifestation of the energy is called as Asat because it is not false, it is temporary. And the material manifestation will come and go, come and go. Bhagavad Gita explains, Bhutva Bhutva Praliyate. Bhutva Bhutva Praliyate means they are constantly in the stage of manifestation and unmanifestation. So this is how beautifully Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport. Text 10. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Yat Tat Triyogam Avyak Trigunam Avyaktam Nitya Sadasat Asadatmakam Pradhanam Prakritim Prahur Avishesham Visheshavat. Translation?
Translation: The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the unmanifested external combination of three modes is the cause of the manifest state and is called Pradhana. It is called Prakriti when in the manifested stage of existence. Purport: The Lord points out material nature in its subtle stage, which is called Pradhana, and he analyzes this Pradhana. The explanation of Pradhana and Prakriti is that Pradhana is the subtle, undifferentiated sum total of all material elements. Although they are undifferentiated, one can understand that the total material elements are contained therein. When the total material elements are manifested by the interaction of the three modes of material nature, the manifestation is called Prakriti. Impersonalists say that Brahman is without variegatedness and without differentiation. One may say that Pradhana is the Brahman stage, but actually the Brahman stage is not Pradhana. Pradhana is distinct from Brahman because in Brahman there is no existence of the material modes of nature. One may argue that the Mahatattva is also different from Pradhana because in the Mahatattva there are manifestations. The actual explanation of Pradhana, however, is given here. When the cause and effect are not clearly manifested, avyakta, the reaction of the total elements does not take place, and that stage of material nature is called Pradhana. Pradhana is not the time element because in the time element there are actions and reactions, creation and annihilation. Nor is it that jiva or marginal potency of living entities or designated conditioned living entities because the designations of the living entities are not eternal. One adjective used in this connection is nitya, which indicates eternality. Therefore, the condition of material nature immediately previous to its manifestation is called pradhana. Hare Krishna.
Now the Supreme Lord begins his explanation. The unmanifest eternal combination of three modes of material nature is the cause of the manifest state, and it is called as pradhana. It is called prakriti when it is manifested stage of existence. So there is a pradhana and prakriti, and there is a subtle difference between pradhana and prakriti, and Srila Prabhupada very beautifully explains what is the difference. Slightly technical topics. So one can see how Purushottam Kapila Muni has given the answers. First, he gave the beautiful conclusion of Sankhya, and now that is 3.25, the beautiful chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. And now he is going to go way deep inside what is pradhana, what is prakriti. Next we will be seeing only counting will be there. Mahabhutani panchaiva panchabihi, the counting will be there, and that's why the sankhya. And again, Kapila Muni will establish, the glories of devotional service and conclusion of sankhya. Right. So this is how this whole thing is unfolding. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains there is a difference between pradhana and prakriti. Now let us see what is the difference. Explanation of pradhana and prakriti is that pradhana is subtle, undifferentiated sum total of all material elements. Although they are undifferentiated, one can understand that the total material elements are contained therein. Right. So they are undifferentiated. Total elements are there, but they are undifferentiated. And because they are undifferentiated, Prabhupada says, pradhana is distinct from the Brahman. No, not here. Okay, we'll go again. It's very deep purport. When the total material elements are manifested by the interactions of three modes of material nature, then they are called as prakriti. So within pradhana, all material elements are existing, but their specific manifestation is not visible. It is just like what you can see is that the child in the womb, but before manifestation, you will see only the liquid and, I'm sorry, I'm not from the medical background, so I will be missing the specific terms there. What they call it, primordial something. Okay. So, the total elements are there, but the manifestation of the elements are not there. Right. And because the manifestation of elements are not there, the specific activity of that element with the three mode of material nature and, the subsequent actions are not there. For example, it is only a lump of matter, but it is not formed as nose, and therefore the smell, activity of the smell, good smell, bad smell is not there. But everything is there. Somebody will say, everything is there and still it is not there. Yeah, it is yet to be manifested. Right. Some very crude example we can give is, in every house you will have, the spices ka dabba, masala ka dabba. So, somewhere there will be jeera, somewhere there will be, the different ingredients will be there, different colors will be there. But just imagine that a child goes there and just shakes everything. And you just imagine sometimes children do that. You shake the masala ka dabba, and so all masalas are there, but now they are in the unmanifested stage. The specific smell of the hing, or specific smell of the jeera, how the jeera will go in the tadka and how that is not there yet, because it is the total the total combined element. So we have seen two examples. One example of this, the spice ka dabba. Another example is the child in the womb before the the different limbs are being formed and the activities of limbs are being initiated and the experience being initiated. Right. So that is called as pradhana. So let's go again here. Pradhana is subtle, undifferentiated sum total of all material elements. Although they are undifferentiated, one can understand that the total material elements are there contained within. Sab masala hai usme, but they are undifferentiated, and therefore specific experience, as the specific contribution is not differentiated. It is not there. It is there, but differentiation is not there. Right. When the total material elements are manifested by the interactions of three modes of material nature, the manifestation is called as prakriti, and that's why the definition of prakriti is Daivi Hesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratyaya. Right. So prakriti is Daivi Hesha Gunamayi. So elements are there, and when the gunas come in picture, then it becomes prakriti. Right. Impersonalists say that the Brahman is without variegatedness. So impersonalists think that, Brahman is also like that, without variegatedness. Now, this lump of matter may feel like without variegatedness, but Prabhupada says Brahman is not like, and without differentiation. Now you said Pradhana is also without differentiation. Brahman is also without differentiation. Brahman is also nirvishesha. One may say that Pradhana is Brahman stage, but actually Pradhana is not Brahman. But Brahman stage is not Pradhana. Pradhana is distinct from Brahman because in Brahman stage, there is no experience of material modes of nature. What a beautiful point Prabhupada makes here. Somebody may say, your undifferentiated matter. I hope, we are enjoying this. Right. It's very deep technical discussion, but Prabhupada makes it so beautiful and so enjoying that, Now, somebody may say, oh, you are saying this, the Pradhana. We say it is Brahman and sab kuch ek hai, nirvishesha. Yeah, in the sense that both are undifferentiated, but in Pradhana, there will be three modes of material nature. But in Brahman, there is no three modes of material nature. Brahman is Amalam, right? There is no Rajas, Tamas, or even Sattva in that contaminated stage. There is, contaminated by Rajas and Tamas. Brahman is Purna Shuddha, right? So, Brahman is not Pradhana, Prabhupada says. One may argue that Mahatattva is also different from Pradhana because Mahatattva, there are manifestations. The actual explanation of Pradhana, however, is given here. When the cause and effect are not clearly manifested, thus they are avyakta. The reaction of the total elements does not take place, and that stage of material nature is called as Pradhana. Okay, so that's what it is, that mixed up spices. You don't know the separate jeera in that, you don't know separate hing in that, it's all mixed. And because it is all mixed, their separate specific contribution is not visible. Right? So look at this. When the cause and effect are not clearly manifested, avyakta, the reaction of the total elements does not take place, and therefore it is called as Pradhana. Pradhana is not time element, because in time element, there are actions and reactions, creation and annihilation. So Pradhana is not time. Nor it is the jiva, the marginal potency, living entities, or designated conditioned living entities, because the designations of the living entities are not eternal. So Pradhana is also not jiva. Pradhana is also not, there is no time element. And the Prakriti is, especially three modes are yet to be mixed in that. And therefore it is not Prakriti. So when Pradhana plus three modes of material nature, mota, you can say like that, becomes Prakriti. And when Prakriti is added with time, becomes very alluring to the living entity, and living entity assumes they themselves as them and starts with actions and reactions. And then there is a cause and effect, and the whole material manifestation comes to sizzling. Right? Another example, there is only a lump of kapada, lump of cloth, and then there is some red color, blue color, this and that. And then you take that lump of cloth, cut it into a t-shirt, and put the red color in such a way that somebody identifies it RCB logo. Put the blue color in such a way somebody identifies that Delhi logo. And then, now it is a lump of matter, and it is just the color. But the lump of matter with specific color, now they will take their specific identities, and the living entity will come and they will say, oh, I am RCB fan, oh, I am Delhi fan. And they will be, there will be match, there will be actions and reactions, and the whole thing will start sizzling. There will be stadiums, floodlights, the sponsor, whole thing just started coming. It is from where it is coming. So there is Pradhana. With Pradhana, then there is three modes of material nature, then there is Prakriti, then there is time element added to that, and then there is misidentification by the living entity, and then there is whole manifestation of material variegatedness. Right? And this is how, beautifully Srila Prabhupada explains connection between Pradhana, Prakriti, and then later, the Yaya Sammohito Jiva, the Maya, and how the time element being added, and how the Maya, puts over the spell on the living entities, and the living entity becomes conditioned by that. Right. So this is, the beautiful explanation Kapila Muni and later Srila Prabhupada gives in the purport. What is Pradhana, Prakriti, and addition of three modes and addition of time, and finally bewildering the living entities. Text 11. Panchabir Brahma Chaturbhir Dashabhir Yatha Etat Chatur Vishatikam Ganam Pradhanikam Viduhu. Translation.
The aggregate elements, namely the 5 gross elements, the 5 subtle elements, the 4 internal senses, the 5 senses for gathering knowledge, and the 5 outward organs of action, are known as pradhana. Purport. According to Bhagavad Gita, the sum total of the 24 elements described herein is called the Yonir Mahat Brahma. The sum total of the living entities is impregnated into this Yonir Mahat Brahma, and they are born in different forms, beginning from Brahma down to the insignificant ant. In the Srimad Bhagavatam and other Vedic literatures, the sum total of the 24 elements, Pradhana, is also described as Yonir Mahat Brahma. It is the source of the birth and subsistence of all living entities. Hare Krishna.
The aggregate elements. Now, let us look at these aggregate elements. Now, slightly, now, upar se, from you look from a distance, it all looks one. Now we are going to take a closer look. Now we are, the zooming in that pradhana, and going to find out what all there are things in pradhana. The aggregate elements, that is the 5 gross elements. So, which are these? Lord is going to explain. Mahabhutani Panchaiva, Bhumirapo Analo. So, which Bhagavad Gita explains. Bhumirapo Analo Vayu Kham Mano Buddhirevach. So, these are 5 gross elements, 5 subtle elements. Oh, we have seen only 3. Lord says 5 here. Let's see which are these 2 later. 4 internal senses, 5 senses. 5 senses for knowledge gathering, that is Karmendriya, and 5 outward organs, Gyanendriya and Karmendriya, and this all sum total is called Pradhana. So let's combine this. 5 plus 5, 10 plus 4, 14 plus 5 plus 5, 24. So these are the 24 elements of Pradhana. Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, according to Bhagavad Gita, sum total of 24 elements are described here as Yoni Mahat Brahma. Yoni means from where the birth takes place. That's why we say there are 84 lakhs species or yonis. So Yoni Mahat Brahma. And so there will be different forms coming from these 24 only. Very gross forms will have the gross elements more. Subtle forms like Brahma, they will have the subtle elements more. Like Brahmaji doesn't have a very gross body. His body is made up of intelligence largely. Humans, the body will be, and that's why the subtle loka there, right? Earthly creatures like we, our body will be made up of the earth, right? Most of it is earth and water, because we are living on a planet which is earth and water. There is a planet which is made up of Bhumi, Rapo, and Agni, like Surya Dev, and the living entities there, their body will be made up of Agni. Simple it is, right? Because they have to live there, they have to sustain there, and scientists now also have found out something called as a fire bacteria, that they survive within the fire. Science has a lot to do and discover a lot. So this is how the different forms, beginning from Brahma down to insignificant ant, they come from Yonir Mahat Brahma. And which is that Mahat Brahma? This is Pradhana. Mahat, it is great. And from here, the different forms are going to be manifested. The sum total are 24 elements of Pradhana, and it is the source of birth and subsistence of all living entities. Right. So this is how there is a explanation, which is beginning of explanation. Later we are going to see now each of these specific categories are going to be further being subdivided, and Lord Kapila is going to count all these, and that's why it is Sankhya Yoga. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.
Prabhuji,
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhupada. Thank you,
Krishna,
everyone. Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Thank you,
Krishna,
Prabhuji. Hare
Prabhupada.
Krishna.
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Can you tell me the connection between Mahatattva and not Prakriti, Pradhana? Mahatattva and Pradhana.
Yeah, just wait for a couple of shlokas. We are going to go deep
Okay.
in that.
Okay.
ठीक है ना?
Thank
What
you,
is
Prabhuji.
Mahatattva and Pradhana? So
Okay.
there is Mahatattva, Pradhana, Prakriti, and then manifestation. Okay, it's
Okay.
just coming on the way.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna,
everyone. Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna. Yeah.
Hare, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, like this is happening inside every universe, or this is from Mahavishnu? This
No, this is not
Pradhana
happening
formation.
within the universe. We are talking about, the sum total outside.
But then how, like it is said that, every from the pore of Lord's body, all the universe manifests.
That we have seen in the second canto.
Oh, okay.
Okay, see, there is a difference between Sarga and Visarga. So, in a way, now everything happens everywhere. Okay. And this happens not from Brahmanda, it happens in the womb in the mother also. Right? The unmanifest matter is there, and then it will get manifestation. Then manifestation will get activities, and there will be actions and reactions. So, whatever happening in the universe is also going to happen this is a fractal of the Supreme Lord. The universal phenomena will happen in the atomic level as well. Right? So, in a way, everything is happening everywhere. But more specifically, Sarga happens Sarga is creation of the Supreme. Visarga is creation of, Brahmaji later. But this is on the Sarga level only. Here, Brahmaji is not commonly in the picture. Bodies of Brahma, that's why we see here, right? Yonir Mahat Brahma, they are the born in the different forms. So this is Brahma will come eventually in the due course of time.
But this is like this glance of the Lord, that is Mahavishnu's glance, which like falls on
Mahavishnu's
the.
glance is on the, so it is going to happen at both the levels.
Okay.
It is going to happen at both the levels. Right.
Yes.
When we little bit wait, it is in progress how it is going to happen.
Okay. Yes.
Right. So some part of the second canto will also be covered in the third canto.
Okay.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.